They were fathers, sons, lovers, liars. Some confessed. Others went to their deaths claiming innocence. And in the cold, fluorescent light of America's execution chambers, each of them took their final breath, some with remorse, some with rage, and others with silence. This isn't just about justice. It's about humanity at its most broken point. Tonight, we revisit the final moments of the executed in 2024, men who committed unthinkable crimes, and those who died believing the world got it wrong. These are their last words, their last meals, and their last chances to be remembered as more than a case number. Welcome to the Deadline Files. Kenneth Eugene Smith. On March 18, 1988, Elizabeth Dorling Sennett, age 45, was found stabbed to death in her home in Colbert County. The murder was a contract killing arranged by her husband, Reverend Charles Sennett Sr. He retained Tenant Billy Gray Williams, who recruited Kenneth Smith and John Forrest Parker to carry out the crime for $1,000 each. A week later, Charles Sennett Sr. died by suicide when investigators identified him as a suspect. Williams received life without parole and died in prison in 2020. Parker was executed via lethal injection in June 2010. Smith was convicted and sentenced to death in 1996. He spent approximately 28 years on death row. Smith's attempt at execution via lethal injection in November 2022 failed. Guards tried 18 separate times to establish an IV line, causing severe injury and delay. The execution was formally called off at the warrant deadline. After a settlement, Smith opted to choose nitrogen hypoxia instead. In a November 2022 court filing, Smith formally requested nitrogen hypoxia as an alternative to lethal injection. Alabama granted his request, adopting it as a new protocol and designating Smith as the first to be executed by this method. Smith's final meal was served at 10 a.m. on the execution day and comprised T-bone steak, hash browns, toast, and eggs with 8.1 sauce. No fluids after 4 p.m. to minimize risk of vomiting into the nitrogen mask. During the failed lethal injection attempt in 2022, his meal had been catfish fillets, baked potato, and coleslaw. On January 25, 2024, the nitrogen protocol began around 7:56 p.m., as confirmed by Alabama's Attorney General's office. Smith was pronounced dead at 8:25 p.m. Witnesses described convulsions and writhing lasting at least 4 minutes. Others reported heavy breathing continuing for several more minutes as the mask remained on, even after the subject became motionless. Before his execution, Smith's final words were delivered through the nitrogen mask, reportedly muffled but clear enough. Tonight, Alabama caused humanity to take a step backwards. I leave with love, peace, and light. I love all of you. Thank you for supporting me. He also signed, I love you in sign language to witnesses. Michael Dwayne Smith. On February 22, 2002, Smith burst into the apartment of Janet Miller Moore around 6:30 a.m., mistaking Moore's son for a police informant. When the son wasn't home, Smith shot Moore in the chest, leaving her dead at the scene. Later that evening at 7:30 p.m., Smith entered Sarath Babu Paluru's convenience store, purportedly seeking revenge for perceived disrespect toward his gang. He shot Paluru multiple times, set the store on fire to destroy evidence, and left him among ruined merchandise. Smith was previously linked to an earlier murder in November 2001, Otis Payne Jr., and was a member of the Oak Grove Posse gang. Prosecutors described the killings as acts of gang-related revenge, driven by paranoia and rage. Smith was arrested on February 24, 2002, initially in connection to the 2001 killing. He subsequently admitted to the 2002 murders during interrogations, later recorded on video. He was convicted and sentenced to death by lethal injection. He spent approximately 21 years on death row, sentenced in late 2003 and executed in April 2024. On April 4, 2024, he was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester and was pronounced dead at approximately 10:20 a.m. after administration of a 3-drug lethal injection protocol. Witnesses reported Smith trembled and attempted to lift his head after the first drug dose, breathing short, audible gasps that resembling snoring. Prison officials suggested he may have had undiagnosed sleep apnea. He declined a formal last meal and when asked if he had final words, responded with, "Nah, I'm good." Witnesses included family members of Julie Moore and Peluru, who expressed that justice has been served. Willie James Pi. On November 17, 1993, Pi, along with Chester Adams, 25, and Anthony Freeman, 15, forcibly entered Alicia Lynn Yarbrough's home, intending to rob her then-boyfriend, whom Pi suspected of signing a child's birth certificate. Finding only Yarbrough and her infant inside, they abducted her, drove to a motel where they raped her and stole her jewelry. Later, on a dirt road, Pi shot her 3 times in the back of the head. Her body was discovered later that same day. Freeman confessed and became a key witness. DNA matched Pi as the source of semen found on Yarbrough's body. Trial ran from May-June 1996. Jury convicted him and sentenced him to death by lethal injection. He also received consecutive life and 20-year sentences for other charges. He remained on death row for 28 years, sentenced in June 1996, executed March 20, 2024. His last meal requests include 2 chicken sandwiches, 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, 2 bags of plain chips, and 2 lemon-lime sodas. He ate only 1 burger and fries according to prison officials. On March 20, 2024, he was executed at Georgia Diagnostic and Classification Prison, Jackson, by lethal injection. He was pronounced dead at 11:03 p.m. He was Georgia's first execution in over 4 years. Before his execution, when asked if he had anything to say, he simply replied no. After Pi's execution, Yarbrough's family expressed mixed feelings. One daughter said execution brought closure after 30 years. Others criticized focus on Pi rather than remembering Alicia and emphasized the need to center the victim's memory. Her surviving daughter and cousin later founded When She Survives advocacy organization in her honor. Freddy Eugene Owens. On November 1, 1997, Owens, 19, and accomplice Stephen Golden entered a Greenville convenience store and held clerk Irene Granger Graves, 41, at gunpoint. When she struggled to open the safe, Owens fatally shot her in the head. Golden testified at trial that Owens was the shooter. CCTV showed 2 masked men, Owens in a ski mask, involved in the shooting. Owens denied involvement throughout. On February 16 to 17, 1999, the day after his murder conviction, Owens killed his cellmate Christopher Brian Lee in jail via brutal assault, pen stabbing, strangulation, burning. He confessed in open court at sentencing. On February 15, 1999, he was convicted on charges of murder, robbery, conspiracy, firearm use, and sentenced to death by lethal injection 2 days later. He remained on death row for 25 years, sentenced in 1999 and executed in 2024. His last meal includes a large feast, 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, a well-done ribeye steak, 6 chicken wings, 2 strawberry sodas, and a slice of apple pie. He consumed it at lunchtime on Election Day. He was executed at the Broad River Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, and was pronounced dead at approximately 6:55 p.m. after lethal injection, making it the first execution in South Carolina in over 13 years due to long-standing drug shortages and legal delays. He did not deliver a formal statement. His only verbal word was "bye," directed to his attorney just before the lethal injection began. Observers noted no visible discomfort during the execution. Owens reportedly had a slight smile and maintained eye contact with his attorney during final moments. Kevin Ray Underwood. On April 12, 2006, Underwood lured his 10-year-old neighbor, Jaime Rose Bolin, into his Purcell, Oklahoma apartment under the pretense of playing with his pet rat. Inside, he brutally assaulted her, striking her with a cutting board, suffocating her, then attempting to sexually assault and decapitate her as part of a cannibalistic fantasy. Her body was found in a plastic container in his closet. He was found guilty of first-degree murder on February 29, 2008. Jury recommended death on March 7, 2008. Although Underwood expressed remorse, saying, "I recognize that I deserve to die for what I did," during his December 2024 clemency plea, he emphasized his regret. Despite citing severe mental health issues and childhood trauma, the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-0 against recommending clemency on December 13. Convicted in 2008 and executed in 2024, he spent nearly 16 years on Oklahoma's death row. His last meal includes chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes with gravy, a cheeseburger with French fries and ketchup, pinto beans, a hot roll, and cola from the prison canteen. Served the evening before his execution on December 18th. On December 19th, he was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary, McAllister. The execution began at 10:04 a.m., with death confirmed at 10:14 a.m. It was Oklahoma's fourth execution of 2024 and the nation's last execution that year. Before his execution, Underwood apologized to both the Bolin and his own families. "The decision to execute me on my birthday and 6 days before Christmas was a needlessly cruel thing to do to my family. I'm very sorry for what I did, and I wish I could take it back." His eyes closed, breathing slowed, and he reportedly cried silently. Alan Eugene Miller, convicted of capital murder in the brutal workplace shootings of 3 men, co-workers Lee Michael Holbrooks, 32, and Christopher Scott Yancey, 28, followed by former supervisor Terry Lee Jarvis, 39, on August 5, 1999, in Pelham, Alabama. Miller was armed with a .40 caliber Glock and shot his victims multiple times as part of a paranoid rage, reportedly believing his co-workers were spreading rumors about him. He shot Holbrooks 6 times, Yancey 3 times, and Jarvis 5 times, driving 5 miles between shootings to commit the third at his former workplace. He was found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to death in July 2000, after deliberation lasting only about 20 minutes. An execution by lethal injection scheduled for September 22, 2022 was aborted. Officials couldn't establish IV access. Miller sued, later reached a settlement allowing the state to switch to nitrogen hypoxia instead. His last meal includes hamburger steak, baked potato, and French fries, consumed earlier on execution day. On September 26, 2024, Miller was executed using nitrogen gas at 6:38 p.m., following the state's protocol. Observers reported 2 minutes of shaking and pulling at restraints, followed by 6 minutes of periodic gulping breaths before he became still. Sentenced in July 2000 and executed in September 2024, he spent approximately 24 years on death row. Before his execution, his final words were, "I didn't do anything to be in here." He also asked family or friends present to take care of someone, unspecified due to clarity issues. Ivan Kantu. Ivan Kantu was convicted of murdering his cousin, James Edwin Mosqueda, 27, and Mosqueda's fiancée, Amy Michelle Kitchen, 22, in North Dallas on November 4, 2000. James Mosqueda was found shot 4 times in his bed. The prosecution stated that Ivan Kantu entered James's home, likely with a key he had access to, and shot James twice in the head and twice in the body while he was in bed, possibly asleep or at rest. The shots were fired at close range, suggesting an execution-style killing. James was a drug dealer who reportedly had a strained relationship with Kantu, possibly over money or drugs. Amy Kitchen was found in the hallway, partially clothed and shot twice, once in the face and once in the head. Prosecutors alleged that Amy may have heard the shots or walked into the room afterward and was then confronted and killed by Kantu to eliminate a witness. The nature of her injuries and location in the home suggested she was shot while trying to flee or after seeing James's body. Kantu returned to Dallas several days after the murders. Upon his return, he was arrested by police based on mounting evidence, including blood-stained clothing, fingerprints, a key to the victim's home, and witness statements. His fiancée, Amy Bircher, and her brother both claimed that Kantu had confessed to the murders and had taken Amy to view the crime scene. He was sentenced to death in October 2001 by a Collin County jury, and he continued to maintain his innocence up until the moment of his execution in February 2024, spending approximately 23 years on death row. Ivan Kantu's last meal before his execution was pepper steak, mashed potatoes with brown gravy, green beans, sweet peas, pudding, and a dinner roll. He also had iced tea to drink. On February 28, 2024, he was executed via lethal injection at the Huntsville unit and was pronounced dead at approximately 6:47 p.m. Before his execution, in his final words, Kantu maintained his innocence. "I want you all to know that I never killed James and Amy. And if I did, if I knew who did, you would have been the first to know." He also noted, "I don't think this will bring you closure, but if it does, so be it." Mark Allen Robertson. On August 25, 1989, Robertson shot his friend's grandson Sean Hill once in the head while they were fishing, then entered the home and fatally shot his grandmother Edna Brow, stealing her purse, jewelry, and car. He was later arrested in Las Vegas using Brow's vehicle and reportedly confessed to police, stating he didn't know what to do and felt relief at being caught. Approximately 10 days earlier, Robertson had killed convenience store clerk Jeffrey Saunders, stealing $55. He confessed to that as well. Robertson was convicted in 1991 in Dallas County. He received the death penalty for Brow's murder and life sentences for the others, remaining on death row for approximately 32 to 33 years, though some records suggest he first received execution scheduling in the early 1990s, with delays, making his time on death row roughly 28-plus years by 2024. On February 27, 2024, he was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit, Texas, and was pronounced dead at 6 p.m. Central Time. Robertson received the standard prison meal, the same offered to all inmates that day. No special requests granted. He didn't give any final words. Tavern Dave Hani. On the night of July 9th to 10th, 1998, Tavern Hani broke into the Cedar City home of Claudia Marie Ben, the mother of his former girlfriend and grandmother to his daughter. Under the influence of drugs and alcohol, Hani brutally slashed Ben's throat 4 times, with the wounds so deep they reached her spine. He then stabbed her in the genital area. 3 of her young granddaughters were in the home at the time, including his own daughter, and during the attack, one of the girls was sexually assaulted. He confessed immediately upon arrest. "I stabbed her. I killed her with a knife." Spanning from his sentencing in 1999 to his execution in 2024, Hani spent approximately 25 years on Utah's death row. Hani's final meal, served around 4:30 p.m. on execution day, was a cheeseburger, French fries, and a milkshake. He ate it on the prison campus with family present. On August 8, 2024, Tavern Hani was executed by lethal injection at the Utah State Correctional Facility in Salt Lake City. He was pronounced dead at 12:25 a.m. Mountain Time after receiving 2 doses of pentobarbital. This marked the first execution in Utah since 2010 and the first carried out at the state's new correctional facility. At approximately 12:03 a.m., just moments before his execution, Tabron Hani delivered his final statement. From the start it's been, if it needs to be done for them to heal, let's do this. If they tell you you can't change, don't listen to them. To all my brothers and sisters here, continue to change. I love you all. Take care. During the injection, witnesses reported he tapped his foot and mouthed, "I love you," to his family under the witness glass, and later smiled as he thanked staff for caring for his family. Brian Dorsey. In late December 2006, Dorsey killed his cousin Sarah and Bonnie, 25, and her husband Benjamin Bonnie, 28, in their new Bloomfield home. He had been staying with them while evading drug dealers. In the middle of the night, he took their shotgun from the garage and entered their bedroom while they slept, shot Sarah in the jaw from close range, reloaded and shot Benjamin in the ear. He then sexually assaulted Sarah's corpse, poured bleach on her lower body, and stole valuables to pay off his debt. Their 4-year-old daughter was unharmed, found later by grandparents. He pleaded guilty in March 2008, and during the sentencing hearing in August 2008, he received 2 death sentences, one for Sarah and one for Benjamin. He was sentenced to death in 2008 and executed in 2024, spending approximately 18 years on death row. During that time, he accrued no disciplinary infractions, worked as a prison barber, and gained a reputation as a model inmate. His final meal was a substantial feast, served approximately 7 hours before his execution. It included 2 bacon double cheeseburgers, 2 orders of chicken strips, 2 large orders of French fries, and 1 extra cheesy pizza topped with sausage, pepperoni, onions, and mushrooms. On April 9, 2024, he was executed via a single-dose pentobarbital lethal injection at the Missouri Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bonne Terre. Despite prior concerns related to his obesity and history of intravenous drug use, the execution proceeded without complications. His breathing shifted from deep to shallow, followed by a brief motion. He raised his head and blinked once, before becoming completely still. He was pronounced dead at 6:11 p.m. He was 52 years old and the first execution in Missouri in 2024. In a written final statement, Dorsey expressed deep remorse. "Words cannot hold the just weight of my guilt and shame. I still love you. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Marcelus Williams. On August 11, 1998, former journalist Felicia Gale returned to her home in a gated community in University City, Missouri, where she was later discovered brutally murdered in her kitchen that evening. Gale had been stabbed up to 43 times with a butcher's knife taken from her own kitchen drawer, with wounds located in her head, neck, chest, and abdomen. Defensive marks on her hands indicated a violent struggle. She was discovered in a fetal position after having been cut to death. Her purse and a laptop, which belonged to her husband Dan Picuz's newspaper employer, were reported stolen from the scene. These missing items later became the basis for witness claims connecting Marcelus Williams to the crime. Williams was convicted in 2001 of first-degree murder, burglary, and armed criminal action. Despite no physical evidence linking him to the scene, the prosecution relied heavily on testimonies from 2 incentivized witnesses, his former cellmate and girlfriend. He was sentenced to death. His last meal includes chicken wings and tater tots. On September 24, 2024, Marcelus Williams was executed by lethal injection at Missouri's Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bonne Terre at approximately 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time. He was 55 years old and had spent nearly 24 years on death row. In his written final statement, Marcelus Calliope Williams declared, "All praise be to Allah in every situation." He had converted to Islam and served as an imam in prison. After his execution, his funeral was held under Islamic rites. Travis James Mollis. On January 29, 2008, in Galveston Seawall, Texas, Mollis sexually assaulted his 3-month-old son, Elijah James Mollis, then strangled him, followed by stomping on the infant's head, crushing his skull, which led to death. He later disposed of the body roadside and fled the state. On February 1, 2008, he walked into a police station in Philadelphia, told officers he believed he was wanted in Texas for murder, and surrendered himself. He stood trial and was convicted and sentenced to death in March 2011. He spent approximately 13 years on death row from sentencing in 2011 until execution in 2024. On September 24, 2024, he was executed at the Huntsville Unit, Texas, via lethal injection, and was pronounced dead at 7:01 p.m. Central Daylight Time. He was 38 years old. In his final words, Travis Mollis made a brief but reflective statement. "I do regret the decision to take the life of my son. I want to thank everyone that accepted me for the man I became. We have changed. We are not the same." He apologized to his son's mother and others, thanked prison staff and fellow inmates for showing rehabilitation is possible, and accepted full responsibility for his crime. Emmanuel Littlejohn. On June 19, 1992, during a robbery at Mears' store, Kenneth Mears, owner of the Root and Scoot convenience store in Oklahoma City, was shot and killed. Littlejohn, 20 at the time, and co-defendant Glenn Bethany were charged. Mears was killed by a single shot, making it unclear who pulled the trigger. Bethany was tried first 1993, convicted of murder and robbery, and sentenced to life without parole. The same prosecutor then tried Littlejohn 1994 for the same crime, claiming Littlejohn was the shooter, despite only one bullet involved. He was convicted and sentenced to death. He spent approximately 30 years on death row, convicted and sentenced in 1994, and executed in 2024. For his last meal, Littlejohn requested meat pizza, 2 slices of cheesecake, and a Coke. On September 26, 2024, he was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester. The procedure began at approximately 10 a.m. Central Time, and he was declared unconscious by 10:07 a.m. He was officially pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m. Just before his execution, he spoke softly to his mother and daughter. "Mom, you okay?" She replied, "I'm okay." He concluded with, "Everything is going to be okay. I love you." These were among his last words. Additionally, during his August clemency hearing, he stated, "I committed a robbery that had devastating consequences, but I repeat, I did not kill Mr. Mears." Derek Dearman. On August 20, 2016, in Citronelle, Alabama, Mobile County, 5 individuals were killed in a brutal overnight attack. Joseph Adam Turner, 26, brother of the surviving girlfriend. Shannon Randall Turner, 35, Turner's wife. Chelsea Reed, 22, Randall's sister, pregnant at 5 months. Justin Caleb Reed, 23, Chelsea's husband. Robert Lee Brown, 26, a relative staying in the home. Dearman used an axe to strike and gruesomely incapacitate the victims, leaving them alive before delivering execution-style gunshots to finish each one at close range. Chelsea Reed was shot last, and the unborn fetus was also killed. He initially pleaded not guilty. In September 2018, he accepted a plea deal but still underwent a jury trial. The jury found him guilty of 6 counts of capital murder, including fetal homicide and kidnapping. He received a death sentence. In early 2024, Dearman officially dismissed his legal team, withdrew appeals, and requested that his execution proceed without delay. He claimed this was to bring closure to the victims' families and atone for his actions. Contrary to many other cases, Dearman received a seafood platter brought from a local restaurant. This included fried catfish, 3 fried shrimp, 3 boiled shrimp, 3 fried oysters, onion rings, a deviled crab, and 2 side dishes. On October 17, 2024, he was executed via lethal injection at Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, and was pronounced dead at approximately 6:14 p.m. Central Time. He was 36 years old. Before his execution, in his final words, Dearman said, "To the victim's family, forgive me. This is not for me. This is for you. I have taken so much. To my family, you all already know I love you." He maintained a remorseful demeanor and emphasized that his decision to forego appeal stemmed from wanting the victims' families to have closure. Jaime Mills. Mills and his common-law wife, Joanne Mills, posed as visitors needing to use the phone. Once allowed entry, they escorted the retired couple to a storage shed. There Mills brutally beat Floyd with a machete and tire tool and struck Vera with a hammer. He then stole approximately $140, prescription pills, and other items. Vera survived the attack, but suffered severe head trauma and complications. She died on September 12, 2004, approximately 12 weeks after the assault. In 2007, Mills was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death, while his common-law spouse, who cooperated with authorities and testified against him, received a life sentence with the possibility of parole. Sentenced in 2007 and executed in 2024, Mills spent approximately 17 years on Alabama's death row. Jaime Mills's final meal was a seafood feast, which included 3 large shrimp, 2 catfish fillets, 3 oysters, 3 onion rings, 1 stuffed crab. He accepted this special meal before his execution, per eyewitness reports. On May 30, 2024, he was executed by lethal injection at the William C. Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, and was pronounced dead at approximately 6:26 p.m. Central Time following a 3-drug lethal injection protocol. He was 50 years old at the time of his execution. During his final moments, his final words were, "I love my family. I love my brother and sister. I couldn't ask for more. Charlotte, you fought hard for me. I love y'all. Carry on." He gave multiple thumbs-up gestures to family members, mouthed, "I love you," and prayed with his spiritual advisor. He did not explicitly express remorse for the crime, but maintained affection for loved ones. David Russell Hozier. David Russell Hozier was an American ex-soldier who was convicted of the murder of his ex-lover Angela Gilpin in 2009. On September 28, 2009, the Gilpins were shot and killed near their apartment in Jefferson City. Hozier was convicted of Angela's murder. The murder charge for Rodney Gilpin was dropped prior to trial. Investigators cited Hozier's romantic relationship with Angela and jealousy after she reconciled with her husband as the motive. Threatening messages from him were documented, and Angela had a protective order application in her purse at the death scene. He was tried and convicted in October 2013 for Angela's murder, armed criminal action, burglary, and illegal firearm possession, and sentenced to death on November 27, 2013, with additional prison terms for other charges. He spent approximately nearly 11 years between sentencing in late 2013 and execution in mid-2024. Hozier's final meal included New York strip steak, baked potato with butter and sour cream, Texas toast, Dutch apple pie, orange juice, and milk. On June 11, 2024, he was executed at 6:11 p.m. Central Daylight Time via lethal injection, single-dose pentobarbital, at the Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bonne Terre, Missouri. He was aged 69 at the time of his execution. In his final written remarks, Hoer wrote, "I've been able to speak the truth of my innocence. I leave you all with love. Now I get to go to heaven. Don't cry for me. Just join me when your time comes." Romero Gonzalez. In January 2001, then 18-year-old Gonzalez entered the Bandera County home of his drug dealer's girlfriend, Bridget Townsend. He kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and fatally shot her. He later led authorities to her remains in a field near his family's ranch. He was found guilty in August 2006 of capital murder and sentenced to death. Romero Gonzalez was on death row for nearly 18 years before his execution. From his conviction in 2006 till his execution in 2024. On June 26, 2024, which coincided with the victim's birthday, he was executed by lethal injection of pentobarbital, administered at approximately 6:26 p.m. He was pronounced dead at 6:50 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Witnesses reported that Gonzalez took 7 deep, snore-like breaths before all movement stopped. In his final message, Gonzalez addressed Bridget Townsend's family. "I can't put into words the pain I have caused y'all. I hope this apology is enough. I never stopped praying that you would forgive me. I owe all of you my life." Later reportedly whispered, "Warden, I'm ready." During the procedure, his spiritual advisor placed a hand on his chest and sang a prayer. His final demeanor was calm and resolute. Richard Norman Rogem, Jr. On July 6 to 7, 1984, Rogem abducted Layla Dawn Marie Cummings, age 7, his former stepdaughter, from her Elk City apartment, raped, and stabbed her 3 times. Her body, found face down in a field roughly 20 miles away, was clothed in her mother's nightgown. Previous convictions included the rape of 2 teenage girls in Michigan in 1978. Rogem was first convicted in 1985, but that death sentence was overturned twice due to procedural errors. In 2007, a third jury again sentenced him to death. He had spent nearly 4 decades on death row, making him the longest-serving death row inmate in the state's history. For his last meal, he requested and received a Little Caesars pizza, 2 small pizzas with double cheese and double pepperoni, along with 2 vanilla ice cream cups, a bottle of Werner's ginger ale, 8 salt packets, and 8 crushed red pepper packets. On June 27, 2024, Rogem was executed via lethal injection at Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester and was pronounced dead at 10:16 a.m. Central Time. He was aged 66. His final words, when asked, he said, I've said my goodbyes." He looked briefly toward witnesses, including Layla's mother, before breathing ceased approximately 5 minutes later. Keith Edmund Gavin. Gavin was found guilty of capital murder in the March 6, 1998 shooting death of William Clinton Clayton, Jr., a 68-year-old contract courier, who was shot while withdrawing money at an ATM in Center, Cherokee County, Alabama. Clayton died in his vehicle. Gavin also fired at a pursuing police officer who survived. He was sentenced to death in early 2000. Clayton stopped at an ATM before going to dinner with his wife. Gavin allegedly approached the vehicle, opened the door, and shot Clayton 3 times. 2 bullets struck vital organs. The victim's son later described Clayton as a gentle giant and a devoted father deeply missed by his family. Sentenced in January 2000 and executed in July 2024, he spent approximately 24 years on death row. Gavin declined a formal last meal. Instead, he consumed snacks including a bag of Ruffles cheddar sour cream chips, a bag of Lay's plain potato chips, a Hershey chocolate bar with almonds. On the day of the execution, he had ice cream and Mountain Dew. These items were self-selected rather than provided via a special meal request. On July 18, 2024, he was executed via lethal injection at William Calvin Holman Correctional Facility, Atmore, Alabama. He was pronounced dead at 6:32 p.m. Central Daylight Time, after the execution began around 6:15 p.m. Moments before the procedure began, Gavin declared, "I love my family." Witnesses reported he also offered Muslim prayers, indicating he had converted during incarceration. Media noted his lips forming Arabic phrases and his hand pointing upward as he mouthed religious expressions. Carrie Dale Grayson. On February 21 to 22, 1994, 19-year-old Carrie Dale Grayson and 3 teenage co-defendants picked up Vicky W., a hitchhiker from Tennessee, while traveling through Louisiana. Instead of continuing their journey, they lured her into a remote wooded area where they launched a brutal assault, beating, stomping, and choking her before abandoning her in the wilderness. Her mutilated body was later discovered at the edge of a cliff. The autopsy revealed horrific injuries, 180 post-mortem stab wounds, the removal of her fingernails and thumbs, and the partial extraction of a lung. He was tried in January 1996, convicted unanimously. Grayson received a death sentence, while 2 co-defendants under 18 later had their sentences commuted following Supreme Court rulings. Grayson remained the only one executed. His last meal includes soft tacos, beef burritos, a tostada, chips and guacamole, and a Mountain Dew Baja Blast, all ordered from local restaurants. On November 21, 2024, Carrie Dale Grayson was executed by nitrogen hypoxia at Alabama's Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore. The nitrogen began flowing around 6:12 p.m., and he was pronounced dead at approximately 6:33 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Grayson, then 50 years old, had spent nearly 30 years on death row. He was the 3rd inmate in the United States to be executed using nitrogen hypoxia, following Kenneth Smith and Alan Miller. Before his execution, in his final words, Grayson delivered a profanity-laden rant directed at execution staff, including employees at Holman Unit. He raised both middle fingers while strapped to the gurney. Spoken softly after his outburst, he later stated justice served and hoped the victim's family would find solace. Joseph Edward Corkran. On July 1997, Corkran killed 4 people in Fort Wayne, Indiana. His brother James Corkran, 30, his sister's fiancé Robert Scott Turner, 32, his friends Timothy G. Bricker, 30, and Douglas A. Stillwell, 30. Motive reportedly involved stress over his sister's impending marriage, which would have forced him to move out of the family home. He was also suspected, but acquitted, of the 1992 murder of his parents. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 1999. He spent approximately 25 years on Indiana's death row from 1999 until 2024. His last meal request includes Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which was granted. On December 18, 2024, Joseph Edward Corkran was executed by lethal injection at 12:44 a.m. Central Standard Time at Indiana State Prison in Michigan City, Indiana. Corkran, aged 49, was the first person executed in Indiana since 2009. Before his execution, when given the opportunity to speak, his words were, "Not really. Let's get this over with." Behind every name is a trail of shattered lives, victims whose families still grieve, and perpetrators whose final moments range from repentance to denial. We don't tell these stories to glorify violence, but to remember, to provoke thought, to confront the uncomfortable truths buried in the justice system. If this episode made you feel something, anger, sadness, reflection, then we've done our job. Subscribe to Deadline Files for more unflinching true crime stories, real executions, and the chilling final words that echo long after the sentence is carried out. Let us know in the comments which case stayed with you and why. Until next time, stay aware, stay human, and remember, justice always leaves a mark.